Hello, I am Andrew Kahn. I'm joined here by Kyle Austin. We're the Michigan and Michigan State beat writers, and we're here to preview the Big Ten men's basketball tournament, which starts actually tonight, Wednesday night in Indianapolis. Michigan and Michigan State will not take the floor until tomorrow, with Michigan playing at 11:30 a.m. against Indiana, and Michigan State taking the floor for the first game of the second session there at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time against Maryland. Kyle, welcome. Are you excited for this year's Big Ten tournament?
I am excited. I think it's going to feel pretty close to normal for the first time in a while. 2 years ago, you and I went down there and turned around and came back without covering a game. Last year, just Lucas Oil, an enormous venue, only friends and family. Everything about it felt odd. This is going to feel back to normal, and it feels like it's been a while. We're talking to Malik Hall at Michigan State yesterday. He's a junior in his third season, and he said, I feel like I've never actually played in the Big Ten tournament, because they've all been strange. So I'm looking forward to it certainly more than I have the last couple of years.
And both teams not necessarily expected to go too deep in this event for the first time in a while. Michigan was the Big Ten champions last year in the regular season, so they were the 1 seed. They at least, made it to Saturday. Do you remember the year? I put this in a chat earlier this week as far as the last time neither team made it to at least the semifinals, but it's been a while. It might have been 2015 or 2011 or something like that.
It's been a while. And Michigan State, believe this is only the fourth time that they've started on Thursday in the tournament history. They've almost always been a top 4 seed, so it's going to be weird for them having a Thursday game at all.
Let's start with them. I know they play later in the day, but that's all right. Michigan State playing Maryland. They're the 7 seed. Maryland's the 10. The winner moves on to face number 2 seed Wisconsin. I know these teams played to end the regular season, which is kind of odd now to turn around and play so quickly. Was that their second matchup? I cannot remember if Michigan.
Yes, second matchup. Michigan State swept the season series. Okay. They won close game at Maryland, and then on Sunday they played again.
So I guess, there is the old adage of it's hard to beat a team 3 times. I've disproven this over the years because Michigan has often drawn a team for the 3rd time. That's not the case with Indiana, but and it's just simply not true. But there is the uniqueness of the fact that they did just play a few days ago. I guess, what are you looking for in this matchup?
Yeah, I've actually seen that statistically disproven, that adage, although I've also heard Michigan State coaches and players say it like 5 times this week. So they certainly believe it. I mean, Michigan State, I think, matches up pretty well with Maryland. They didn't beat a whole lot of teams 2 times this year. And Maryland's one of the ones they did. It's been the teams kind of with the big dominant bigs that have given Michigan State the biggest trouble. Michigan being one of them the other day. And Maryland doesn't really have that. They're a little bit more guard oriented, and I think Michigan State can defend that pretty well. Eric Ayala hit 5 threes on him the other day, really got going in the second half. So I think he's probably number 1 on the scouting report at this point. Although Fats Russell can give you trouble too. They defended him pretty well, but those are the 2 kind of guys to watch out for. But, both of the games they played in the regular season followed a pretty similar script. Michigan State went up big in both of them, looked like they were going to cruise, and then kind of fell apart and made things way more interesting than they had to. Needed a game winner to win at Maryland when they were up by 15, I think. And then on Sunday, they went from up 20 to up by 3. Maryland very much back in the game before Michigan State closed it out. So Maryland has certainly shown that they're capable of playing with Michigan State, capable of winning. So Michigan State's going to want to close the door, I think, a little bit better this time.
We'll talk about sort of the implications of what these games, this tournament means for these teams in the NCAA tournament, but we'll move over to Michigan here. They play Indiana, like I said, Thursday, 11:30. Michigan beat Indiana in Bloomington 80-62, but that was back on January 23rd. Not a ton has changed for Michigan. They continue to just go up and down like they have for most of the season. It's now 9 straight games where it's been win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. And they're coming off a win, so that's maybe not a good sign. I mean, the players acknowledge, though, that this is happening. They seem to be more aware of it. They admitted even as recently as Sunday after the win over Ohio State that in the game before that, Iowa, that they were riding too high from the game before that, the Michigan State win. So it's like they are aware that they are, in the sense reading their own press clippings and just getting too high after these wins and not focusing at the start of games. So that's the first step, right, to addressing a problem is recognizing you have one. Now they have to try to do something about it. And of course, on top of all of this is the fact that Juwan Howard is returning as head coach. He was suspended for the post-game brawl he incited at Wisconsin on February 20th, got suspended the next day for 5 games, which is now up. He was reinstated officially on Monday. We have not talked to him yet as of this recording, but that will change in a couple of hours. So stay tuned for coverage of that on mlive.com/Wolverines. Juwan Howard speaking for the first time since he was suspended. But yeah, how that will change, the team, you wouldn't think too much would change because Phil Martelli tried to run this, the way Juwan Howard would have. He was his own person, personality wise, but the style of play on the court didn't change too much. So yeah, like I said, we're going to talk about what these games mean. And for Michigan, it's important. They are. I've done a lot of research here the last few days on the bubble, and Michigan's in better shape than maybe I thought. They are viewed as in the tournament by most everyone who puts out a bracket. But the thing is, they're viewed as one of the last handful of teams in by almost everyone who puts out a bracket. So it's a fluid situation that could change quickly for Michigan in the wrong way, especially when you're playing a team like Indiana, who's another bubble team and will be hungry to move up in the rankings, not necessarily take Michigan's spot, but definitely they're in a worse spot and are a little more dangerous. So Michigan probably in no matter what happens, but you beat Indiana, you get another decent win, and then your next game, win or lose, it's not going to hurt you too much. I think they'll feel much better if they at least get one game. Michigan State seems to be safer. What's your take on kind of what they need to do in the Big Ten tournament?
I think they're safer, and I think they could lose on Thursday and still be in without even too much sweating. The win over Purdue on February 26th, I think, is the one that really kind of put them over the top. And then Sunday got them to 20 wins, which is kind of a benchmark, I guess. 9 games above 500, given the fact that they're in the Big Ten, they're in the strength of schedule. You lose, you're still 8 games above 500 as a 20-game winner. I think that's pretty safe. So they don't have too much to worry about. Maybe they slip a little bit lower. I think they'll probably end up being in like an 8-9 game. But going back to kind of what you said, I think Michigan's safe too. But the thing you got to remember about all this is that like the bubble is not static.
Right.
We're talking today and. All it takes is a couple, you call them bid stealers, these small conference teams that rise up, win a conference tournament when they weren't going anyway. And that just basically moves everybody down a spot. So all it takes is 1 or 2 of those. And I think Michigan's in worse shape. I still think, that's still unlikely, but it wouldn't shock me, I guess.
Right. I mean, so far that hasn't happened. Loyola Chicago, for example, Murray State, both won their conference tournaments, but it can happen in the major conference tournaments too. We saw it last year. Georgetown came out of nowhere and won the Big East. Oregon State didn't really look like an NCAA tournament team until they won the Pac-12. So like it can happen. It can happen anywhere. So, it seems maybe more likely in the lower conference tournaments because those are 1-bid leagues. So it really just takes the one upset and to make it happen. But you don't want to see those if you're certainly the Michigans of the world and, Indianas and things like that. But it seems like the Big Ten is in position to get a good number of teams in. Strength of schedule certainly helps. Michigan is 5th in their net strength of schedule. Michigan State 13th. They both have decent number of quad 1 wins. Michigan State has 4, I believe. Michigan 5. They've lost twice as many as that, but they've done okay in those chances, and they've taken care of business on the back end. Both avoiding those bad losses, as they say. So that's been key. Michigan State's non-conference a little, if not tougher than Michigan's, they certainly performed better to get those wins over Loyola and UConn on neutral courts. Definitely helped. Michigan played some good teams like Arizona and North Carolina looks like a tournament team, but they didn't Seton Hall, but they didn't beat them.
Right.
So it helps the strength of schedule, but eventually you need those wins. But Michigan gets to 4 games over 500 with that win over Ohio State, and that's really the key. Do you think? We'll talk about both teams, but obviously you know Michigan State much better. Do you think they're capable of making a run here as far as the way the bracket sets up? I mean, Maryland you already kind of talked about, but Wisconsin would be next, and they're a team that's coming off a stunning loss to Nebraska to end the regular season.
Right. I mean, I think if you're a Michigan State fan, the reason you're feeling good is that you've beaten everybody on your shot bracket already. Maryland, you're going to play first, beat them twice. Then you play Wisconsin. They won at Wisconsin. And then if they get past that, highest seed is Purdue, and they just beat Purdue, a week and a half ago. You compare that to, if they were looking at an Illinois who they got swept by, maybe you don't feel as good. But the flip side of that, and the reason I'm not, if I was picking a bracket right now, I wouldn't be having them go deep, is that they haven't seen the consistency.
Right.
You talked about Michigan going alternating win loss for its last 9. Michigan State hasn't been quite that up and down, but they have not won back-to-back games since January 29th to February 1st. So basically they went the entire month of February without back-to-back wins. They've shown they can rise up for a game, beat Purdue, beat Wisconsin, beat Michigan pretty handily at home. But they can never seem to follow that up with anything. They'll follow that up with a loss to Penn State or the like. So
Right.
I could see them knocking off a good team. I can't see them playing well for 3-4 days in a row because they just haven't shown that they can do that. And that goes for the NCAA tournament too. And trust me, I'm not saying anything that anybody at the Breslin Center doesn't know. This is their number one concern. We're not consistent. We'll defend one night, not defend the next night. We'll have, 10 turnovers one night and 20 turnovers the next night. Unless they can solve that and figure out how to be consistent, which they've been trying to figure out since mid-January, I just have a hard time seeing this team go on a run.
But isn't that the case for so many teams in this Big Ten? I mean, Ohio State was riding high, and then they end up losing 3 out of their last 4, including Maryland and Nebraska, and then a home game to Michigan. Rutgers has posted some great wins, but if you go back earlier in the season, some terrible losses. Iowa was kind of back and forth before finishing the season strong, and then of course Michigan is just ping pong between wins and losses most of the year, but especially here down the stretch. So I don't know. You get the sense of maybe these teams beat up on each other during the regular season, and we'll do it again here in Indianapolis. And come NCAA tournament time, they'll some unfamiliar opponents. They'll be able to get a chance to make a run. I don't know, but as far as this week for Michigan, I think Wisconsin's aforementioned loss to Nebraska really hurts them because it then put it knocked Wisconsin down to the 2 seed and moved Illinois up to the 1 seed, and that's just a much tougher matchup for Michigan. Not to mention it takes away that juicy storyline.
I really wanted that.
Potentially facing Wisconsin again in Juwan Howard's second game back, but that could only happen in the championship now, which seems very unlikely. But I just think Illinois is tough. I mean, I see for both of these teams, I kind of filled out my bracket here: Michigan State both winning a game, but probably no more. I like Iowa over Rutgers. I like Illinois and Purdue to play for a championship on Sunday. But I don't know. I think Illinois is just a tough matchup for them. And they already lost to them twice. Illinois has a player that can neutralize Michigan's best player in Hunter Dickinson. So the two of them, might both put up 20, but that cancels each other out. And Illinois has just got, a superior guard in Trent Frazier and a lot of 3-point shooters. That's just been tough for Michigan to cover. But again, just beating Indiana would be a step in the right direction. It would end this streak they've been on of winning and then losing, and give them maybe a little more hope, especially if they play well on Friday, going into the NCAA tournament.
To me, the other reason Michigan, I thought, got the tougher draw is Indiana is like the biggest bubble team in the field. Like they're pretty much right on everybody's cut line, and they need a Big Ten tournament win. I think you could argue more than any team in the whole tournament. So you play that, and then you play, if you win, then you play a tough matchup against Illinois. Like that's tough. And we haven't really seen Indiana rise up at the end of seasons and make runs, I guess recently, but I think you always just have to be wary of that team that's right on the bubble and really needs a win.
I completely agree. Then they looked they looked better. They won 2 games in a row. Then Rutgers was a tough loss, and Purdue tough loss. They're on the road by 2 points. Like they've been in games, they just haven't exactly been able to finish them. But
Right.
they're talented, and yes, they're hungry and determined. That's for sure. I mean,
And Michigan State, on the other hand, got lucky because a 10 seed Maryland though is just not in the tournament picture. So not that they won't be motivated, not that they couldn't win, but it's not a factor in Michigan State's game.
not at all. I agree. So it's looking like the top 8 seeds, looking like NCAA tournament teams with Indiana maybe trying to make a push, and then anything else would be a bid steal. Or Rutgers is interesting because they're kind of a bubble team in a way, but they're the 4 seed in this event, and I don't think that really did them any favors because at the end of the day, the committee does not care where you finished in your conference exactly. They're not really looking at that. That's not one of their metrics. And by getting this double bye, they're kind of denied a
Right.
chance for another win. They don't get to they potentially face Iowa, but that's in their first game. So it's kind of they could get a huge win, but I think they'd probably rather be in a spot where they just get another win, period, and then
No,
face a team
you'd
like
much
Iowa.
rather be playing on Thursday and facing Maryland if you're them. So yeah,
Right.
I hope Rutgers gets in because I think they could go on a run. I think they were totally. I get why the committee can't take how you're playing lately into
Right.
account, but to me the way they've been playing since February 1st, that's completely an NCAA tournament team.
Absolutely. You got any other? I guess you got a sleeper for this event or a champion or whatever. I kind of tip my hand that I guess I like Iowa over Rutgers. That's a 5 over the 4. I like Purdue over Wisconsin. It's a 3 over 2. But in the end, I've got 2 of the more talented teams in this league, Illinois and Purdue, playing for a championship. I don't know, flip a coin for that one, but I guess Illinois' consistency I like, but Purdue's got a high ceiling too. I guess I'll take Purdue in my pick to win this thing.
I would take that. My sleeper is definitely Iowa, though.
Okay.
I love the way they've been playing for a while. They've shown they can beat anybody in the conference. They've got kind of the formula. To me, what's the postseason formula? You got a dude, you got a stud, in Keegan Murray. You got experience. Jordan Bohannon's in his 12th year there, or whatever it is. The counterpoint would be if anybody wants to put up Fran's postseason record. It's not great, so they have to overcome maybe not being consistently good in this event. But I like the way they've been playing, and I like their pieces. Iowa's kind of my dark horse, but yeah, Illinois and Purdue. To me, they've been the best 2 teams all year. And Wisconsin rose up; they were a nice story. I haven't been as convinced by them the whole year. So I think at the end of the year, I'm going with the talent. Those 2 teams have the best rosters. I think they're going to get it together. And I'll take Illinois if you're taking Purdue. I do agree. I think they've been a little bit more consistent. And like 1,000 people have pointed out, Purdue's defense scares me in the postseason. They just haven't defended, I think, at the level that you need to win championships in March. And I think Illinois has been a little bit better in that respect.
Yeah, Iowa. I've got winning 2 games in this tournament. It would be the first time they did that since they won it in 2006. Other than that, it's just been either 0 wins or 1 win for the Hawkeyes in this event. And yes, that was when Steve Alford was still the coach. So you got to go back a while. But yeah, it should be again with more fans in attendance, and I don't want to say this is wide open. Anyone can win this field. I do not believe that, but I think you've got a nice mix of teams that are really trying to establish themselves as potential 2-3 seed type teams for the NCAA tournament. A mix of a few bubble teams trying to solidify their resumes, and then the rest of the field. It's yeah.
Can we talk about Nebraska? I mean, what are Nebraska's odds at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it's you've got that is the first game of this event, 6 p.m. tonight, Nebraska Northwestern in the 13-12 game, and then you got Penn State Minnesota after that. But what are you trying to say? Nebraska's hot at the right time? Is that
maybe Penn State, Ohio State, Wisconsin on the road to win the regular season, which is just astounding. So Iowa's my real dark horse. Nebraska, I don't think can keep that up, but man, they impressed me last week.
Nebraska started this Big Ten season 0-12. They were 1-16 entering the final week, and then, as Kyle mentioned, just ripped off 3 wins against teams that were playing for some things. I mean, Ohio State did not want to lose that game. Wisconsin, it cost them the the outright Big Ten championship. So,
Mhm.
yeah, wild stuff for Fred Hoiberg's team, which certainly when they played Michigan, I didn't see any of that fight. So, yeah, again.
The other thing to say, neither of us picked Wisconsin. Part of it for me is Johnny Davis got hurt, in that Nebraska game,
Mhm.
and I guess he's coming back, but still kind of a question mark there, which gives me another reason not to pick Wisconsin, I guess.
Absolutely. And again, they've been living on the edge kind of all season. They
Mhm.
look like a team that could, yes, make a run to, who knows, the Elite Eight or something like that, or potentially lose in the first round. They've been so good in close games, which is important. It matters. The results matter, but yeah, it just hasn't. They haven't been as convincing. And I think outside of Davis, they just don't have that star power. They don't shoot the three well at all. I mean,
No.
it's kind of like amazing how poorly they shoot it, yet how well they've been doing. So we'll see. But you got Michigan, excuse me, tipping off 11:30 a.m. first game of the day. A lot of fans in the state will be, taking at least the morning off or an early lunch, I guess, to watch that one against Indiana. And then Michigan State at 6:30. It's nice. They're both the first game of their session, so
Yes.
you don't have to worry about the previous game going
The
long as they
the tip-off
usually do.
time should be the tip-off time. Yes.
Exactly, and both are on Big Ten Network, as is all the games in this event up until the semifinals on Saturday. Those move to CBS, as does the championship, which tips off at 3:30 on Sunday. I say it every year; it's absurd. It bumps right up against the selection show. I don't know. We've been covering that game more often than not in recent years, but this year seems unlikely either one of them makes it all that far. But we shall see. But yes, that culminates then with the selection show, and we'll have coverage of this whole event right through Sunday and beyond into the NCAA tournament on mlive.com. So thank you for reading that, and thank you for watching this.